Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Mr. Mark. You are the director of one of the renowned documentary film about the Gulenist cult in the United States. The title of the documentary is Killing Ed. It's a famous documentary film, feature film that exposes a shocking truth about the Gulenist cult in the United States, which has the largest network of taxpayer-funded charter schools in the United States. And Mr. Mark Hall shows how it's a worst-case scenario being operated because of being operated with questionable academic, labor, and H-1B visa standards by member of the Gulenist movement. In 3 days' time, we are going to commemorate the July 15 coup attempt that was conducted by a faction within the military linked to Fethullah Gulen, who is living currently in the United States in Pennsylvania. So, of course, you know the group in the United States. You know how they operate in the United States. My first question to you would be, Mr. Hall, how did you feel, or what did you think when you first heard that a coup attempt is taking place in Turkey and Gulenists are responsible for that coup attempt?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this 5th anniversary of this very violent coup attempt in Turkey. As you say, it was led by the Gulen movement, Feto. That day of the coup, I was working with an editor in an edit suite, and we had a number of televisions on, watching CNN and other news channels. And then it came up that there was a coup in Turkey, at least an attempted coup. And immediately the people that I was with, who had worked with me on Killing Ed and had spent almost 5 years with me on that project, researching the Gulen movement in the United States, we came to believe that it must have been something related to the Gulen movement. Having spent years researching this very mysterious group and how they operate in the United States and how they sought to infiltrate our power structure here in America, it didn't surprise me when it turned out that the Gulen movement was attributed to fomenting this violent coup in Turkey in 2016.
You say that, okay, it was not surprising to you at all. Can you just also give in connotations, making connections with your own experience of the group, with the Killing Ed project? Why wasn't it surprising for you? What was there with them? What did you see with them that didn't surprise you?
Well, we found through our production of the film Killing Ed that the Gulen movement in the United States is a very mysterious group. It has a very shady organization, and it's very extensive, and it has a lot of money. And it always seemed to us that through the use of the money that they were generating from the 173 charter schools in the United States, that they were using that money for things other than the operation of the schools. Because if you go to the schools here in the United States, these are not private schools. These are schools that are free to parents, but are paid for by US taxpayers. You go to these schools and you realize they're in old shopping centers or old grocery stores. Not much money, if you look at the exterior, is going to the education of children. So where was that money going? And I think after several years, we expected that much of that money was going to political goals of the Gulen movement, both here in the United States as well as in Turkey. And so we saw the infiltration of the Gulen movement into the political structure, the power structure here in the United States, with trips to Turkey for very high-level political figures and teachers and students as well as hosting a lot of various events for political figures in Washington, D.C., as well as other state capitals. So when you see this infiltration or this pattern of how they sought to get into power structures here in the United States, it really didn't come as a big surprise that they would use the money, the power, and the other things that they had generated here in America to try to overthrow the democratically elected government there in Turkey.
The group is extremely corrupt. We know that both in the United States and in Turkey, in terms of their infiltration into the political circles. But could you just imagine that one of those actions on July 15, like bombing the parliament, shooting at people, all these wild, violent actions came from the group? What would you feel for? What would be your reaction if you saw somebody doing the same thing in the United States?
Oh, if that happened here in the United States, it would be shocking. It would be as worse as any other event in recent history, 9/11 or attempted assassinations of presidents. It would be something that would draw the attention of any American, every American that lives here in the United States. Should there be that type of violent coup attempt with tanks running over people, with F-16s bombing things like your parliament in Turkey, all of those things would it would be such an unusual event that Americans might not even be able to comprehend it. It would be quite unusual and very shocking to all of us here.
And on that day, Turkish people took the streets, tried to stop the coup attempt, and they succeeded. 250 of them were killed, and more than 2,000 of them were wounded. But at the end of the day, the Turkish people suppressed the violent coup attempt taking place on July 15 night. What is your insights about the Turkish people's struggle against this military violent coup attempt?
I think watching the footage that we saw coming from Turkey during the coup attempt on July 15th was very inspiring, because I believe Turkish people from all walks of life, all political persuasions, got together and in a very democratic manner pushed back on this coup attempt by the Gulen movement, by Feto, a very secretive, shady operation that was seeking to overthrow the democratically elected government there in Turkey. It's inspiring because no matter what you might have believed in there in Turkey, people came together and pushed back, and they walked down the Bosphorus bridges towards those tanks. And some people got shot. Some people were run over by tanks. Some people were injured and killed, as you say, over 200 people. And those types of things that level of violence is something that is really uncalled for in democratic society. And but it was very inspiring to see how people reacted to that en masse to put down this coup attempt.
And also, last question actually. So this Feto issue, the Gulenist issue, is one of the topics that poisoned the US-Turkish relationship. What is your recommendation? Turkey is asking extradition of Feto and its cult to Turkey. What is your recommendations for the US administration to do with the group, and what should the United States as a state do against the group?
Well, I think the Gulen movement, or Feto as it's called in Turkey, is not good for the democracies of the United States, nor is it good for the democracy of Turkey. And as such, I think we should not allow them to operate here in the United States. We should not allow them to operate schools for children. There's over 175 of these schools in 26 states. They're also generating many hundreds of millions of dollars in tax funds from these schools. It's a very anti-democratic group when you look beyond all the pleasantries that they tell people, all of the lies that they have told our politicians about who they are. This is not a group that we want in either of our countries. And my recommendation has been and would be continued to be that Fethullah Gulen and his high-level associates be sent back to Turkey to stand trial for the things that they did on the July 15th. And I think they can receive a good, fair trial in Turkey. I don't think there's any reason to believe that they would not be treated fairly. I think that would be expected by all of us, whether we're in Turkey or the United States. But there's no reason, I believe, to provide Fethullah Gulen and other high-level Gulenists safe sanctuary here in the United States. I think that's a bad thing for our relationship with Turkey. I think it's a bad thing for the democracy of the United States, and I don't think it should be allowed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. I appreciate your insights, and I really thank you for exposing that group so subtly in your documentary, because as a nation, we experienced a lot from the group, both how they infiltrated into the Turkish government and state institutions, as well as their violent action during the July 15 coup attempt. So I thank you for your efforts to expose the group.
Thank you very much for having me.